Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. Hopefully it finds you all doing well. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite artifact sets inside the entire game. It is Reflex. Now you remember about 6 months ago or so, Reflex received a pretty monumental buff. It was a 30% chance to reduce the cooldown of a skill by 1. Now it's a 40% chance. But then a few months ago, it received a pretty massive indirect buff when they added the AI customizer into the game for any champion. So let me talk about why in today's video. I'm going to show you the champions that I use in Reflex gear, how it's kind of changed my account, how it's made them really formidable. I'm going to run them all on the same team as well. We'll have some fun with it. And then I want to go over about 6-7 other champions who I love in Reflex gear. By the way, guys, if there are any other artifact sets that you're a big fan of that not a lot of people talk about, let me know in the comments below, because I want to do a follow-up video to this one, and I already have a couple sets in mind, namely Retaliation and Avenging, which I'm a big fan of since their buffs as well that I use on a few champions. So let me know if you want to see that video in the comments below. So jumping into it, guys, let me just start out by reading off what Reflex gear does. Just random side note that has nothing to do with the video, by the way. Did any of you guys use the fitting room? I put a community tab poll up like 3 days ago now, and I never use the fitting room. I don't know why. Should I?
I want to help you. I want to help you get whatever you want.
Or do you guys not use it either? I never use the fitting room. I've tried to use it once and I'm like, this is tedious. I'm not going to use it, man.
Help me help you.
Give me Hell Hades artifact optimizer instead. Anyway, fitting room, not for me, but hopefully some of you guys do get some utility out of it. If we go down to artifact type, a lot of people don't know this, but you can see all the information, valuable information about every single artifact set. There's actually a ton of information right here in the game about everything in the game, okay? So let's go ahead and scroll down to Reflex at the top of your screen here. Grants the champion a 40% chance to reduce the cooldown of their skills by 1 turn. The skill whose cooldown is reduced is completely random. Now, for the skill to be reduced, it needs to be on cooldown to begin with, okay? That's important to mention here when we get into the AI customizer. This set benefits almost every champion in the game, that is true, especially now, but it is especially useful for champions whose strongest skills have long cooldowns. I would actually disagree with that now. We'll talk more about that in a moment. This set is most effective on champions who have 1 default skill, 1 active skill, and 1 passive skill. As default skill and most passive skills don't have a cooldown, it means the champion will always reduce the cooldown of their active skill if the effect triggers, excuse me. So this is all wrong, right? This is before they added the AI customizer in the game. So 2 buffs to Reflex gear, guys. I'm telling you, it's really good now, because now we can simply shut off an ability on a champion, especially if they have 1 OP ability like Cold Heart, for example. We can shut off the A2 and then just do more Heart Seekers, right, in combination with the 4 times hitter on the A1. But that's just one example. There's still a lot of other good ones. So let's go ahead and show you the champions that I have built in Reflex gear here and talk about how I'm using each of them and why I love them all in Reflex. First off, before we go ahead and show you all these champions, Valkyrie is another one. Actually, I'll go through all the other champions in a moment here, but let me just show you. I don't have a ton of Reflex gear, right? I'm sure a bunch of you guys watching are going to be like, okay, looks like I need to farm, Ice Golem, because who farms Ice Golem? Do any of you guys?
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game.
I don't spend a lot of time on Ice Golem. I spend most of my time in Fire Knight for Savage gear, particularly, and in Dragon's Lair. But I don't spend in, of course, Spiders. But I don't spend, well, comparatively, I spend the least amount of time on Ice Golem. So these are the 3 champions. I don't have a ton of gear, right? I don't have a ton of Reflex gear. But I do have 3 champions geared out in Reflex. 1 is Urogrim, 1 is Battle Khazar, and 1 is Cold Heart. So let's take a look at all 3 of these champions and talk about why I love them so much. So 2 are examples, kind of the old school Reflex in Battle Khazar and Urogrim. Let's just start with Urogrim because he's easy to find. Boom, there he is. So Urogrim, an incredible champion. You can see we have Perception in Reflex. So Reflex, what are we doing with Urogrim? Why do we have him in Reflex gear? So he has this A2, which is a heal and a debuff removal. Now you can still use this, or you can just shut it off in battle, depending on how much healing and support you need. If you're using Urogrim to just, solo or farm on dragons, which a lot of people do, which is what I kind of do as well, I can get by without him having to heal. I can pair another healer like a Sybil of the Drakes or something on the team team with him. Some of you might need the heal, so you can leave that on. You don't have to turn it off, but you can to really maximize that reflex gear if you want to, because Bizarre Vapors, oh my god. I mean, you have healing on this ability anyway, right? Places 3 poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns. Also places 2 continuous heal buffs on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So it's not a long cooldown, but I'm going to turn off the A2. So it will never be on cooldown. Ergo, it will never interact with the reflex procs. It will always go on Bizarre Vapors, aka more poisons and more continuous heals. It's a really insane ability. And since it's already on a 3-turn cooldown, you're going to be reducing that to, 2 turns or to 1 turn. So it's still going to be effective even though it's a 3-turn cooldown. And again, me personally, I shut off the A2. I do not use that A2. That way we're only reflexing on the A3, which is just really strong, guys. It's a shame that people don't talk more about reflex after the 2 buffs, 1 direct and 1 indirect. Battle Khazar, same exact thing. Now, Battle Khazar was always good in reflex, even the old reflex, but now it's even better. 40%, obviously. I have him in a speed set as well. Malice, he only has 2 abilities, guys. His A1 is default, his passive, and then Malice. So Reflex is going to be triggering more Malices throughout the duration of the battle. And again, similar to Urgrim, it has remove all debuffs, a cleanse, 2 continuous heals, and 2 poisons. So more healing, more cleansing, and that's right, more poison on the enemies, right? So very, very strong. And then we have Coulthart, who's an example of a new champion that I would never put in Reflex gear back in the day. But now, and I just want to point this out too, guys, I don't always run this Coulthart. I have a couple Coultharts built, and sometimes I might want that A2. The A2 actually does a lot of damage, and it is an AoE attack. But what I like to do here, and everybody's going to be different, but I just want to give you guys ideas, let you think about this stuff, and I'm going to cover a bunch of other champions in a moment here. But I shut off the Art of Pain. I shut it off. I have her on kind of a Seer team, right? So Seer can burn away the first 2 waves. And then once we get to a boss, Coulthart is only going to have Heartseeker to reduce the cooldown. And you guys know how valuable Heartseeker is, not just for the incredible amount of damage, but also for the decreased turn meter by 100%. So when she's doing even more of this, it's a ton more damage and even more turn meter depletion. So again, very, very valuable to shut off that A2. And that's it. It's always proccing onto Heartseeker. So we can have reduced cooldown. We can get it twice in a row sometimes with a 40% chance, which isn't bad at all. So those are 3 champions that I build in Reflex gear. Before I show you a bunch of other champions that, are great options for Reflex, let's put all these champions together on Dragon 25. All right, guys, so this is my main Dragon 25 team. Check it out with the Reflex gear. Let's pay attention to see if we can get any of those Reflex procs here, or see if we can notice them. Either way, this team's going to definitely impress you guys. I have Eleanor to help with the Combust, which is going to kill those mobs. I have Kymar, to reset the cooldowns. And then I have Uragrim and Battle Khazar, which synergize really, really well with Seer, of all things, right? Because they're going to go ahead and add all those buffs to the team with those continuous heals. And boom, second wave melted away. That's right, this is Dragon 25. All the HP, all the defense that all these mobs have. But it's the beauty of having, not just Reflex, but just kind of this team synergy here of all those continuous heals to help activate that ability from Karma Burn, from Seer. So you guys can see already. Okay, I'm kind of losing track of how many skills cooldowns are happening. We just got one on Uragrim right there, but this is a very fast Dragon 25 team. There goes Seer again. Let's get some continuous heals up. Bad L, we need you right now, buddy. Okay, so I could have used the cooldown there, but we had like the double or maybe quadruple, there it is, Bad L again. So you guys can see, hard to notice exactly when all of the skills are being, the cooldowns are being pushed down because of the Reflex. Hard to notice, and for that reason, it's, it's an underappreciated artifact, I feel like, set, right? But it works incredibly well on teams like this. Uragrim and Battle Khazar, why do I have them in Reflex? Well, any poisoner, anybody who's dishing out a lot of poisons works really, really well in Reflex gear, right? All right, guys, so before I show you other champions, this is Fire Knight 25. I wanted to show you Cold Heart. As I mentioned, guys, I do have Cold Heart's A2 shut off. So Allure, I have her A3 shut off. I have Cold Heart's A2 shut off here, and she is in Reflex gear. Obviously, we don't need Reflex gear for Allure. She would be an example of a champion that would be a bad choice for Reflex gear since we're only using her A1. What I'm going to do, guys, is come back to you when I get to the Fire Knight. This is just going to be, you know, wave killing here with the Karma Burn ability from Seer, so I'll be right back. All right, guys, so we're at the Fire Knight. Here we go. 12 ticks on the shield. This team should have no issues with that. We got a double hitter from Lydia, double hitter from Duchess. We have the 3 hits from Allure. We have the 4 hits from Cold Heart and 2 from Seer. So now we have the shield down. Allure's going to go ahead and tick down that turn meter. And now let's hope for a bunch of Cold Heart Heartseeker abilities. I'm not sure where the cooldown is right now, so we'll see. Already a Heartseeker. So it's on a 4-turn cooldown. Let's see if we can get it to proc a little bit earlier than 4 turns, especially if we really need it with that turn meter of the Fire Knight himself. So let's see. We get the decreased cooldown already, so it procced there. And again, we have that A2 shut off. So not the next turn, but the turn after that, she should already be back to another Heartseeker ability. Might not seem like much, but this is a ton of damage. There it is already. Boom! So back-to-back Heartseekers, even though this is a level 25 dungeon where the turn meter depletion is mitigated, it's mitigated per hit, right? So having multiple Heartseekers is still going to help you out damage-wise and still help you out a lot turn meter-wise. And really, you know, if we get another one here, it will be Sayonara. And this can really be a difference maker for you guys who are struggling against the Fire Knight, especially, right? Because with the turn meter, you know, on a 3-turn cooldown, it's a big game changer with that much turn meter. And there it is again. So 3 Heartseekers in what, a minute or so from Cold Heart? It's definitely one of my favorite builds out there, and it's all thanks to the Reflex set. I feel like I'm just trying to sell you, like I'm on an infomercial right now, you know? Like, guys, check out the Reflex set. You need a Reflex set.
I would be nothing without you holding me up.
All right, defense with speed and accuracy? We'll keep that shield. All right, let's go ahead and show you a bunch of other champions here, a few of my faves, right? So first off, let's start out with some of the obvious choices. Valkyrie. Valkyrie has only 2 active abilities, and again, that's not a must anymore, but it's still good to look for. She has 1 active ability right here. The only ability that can go on cooldown, her A2, is one of the best abilities inside the entire game, right? So even though it's a shield for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, I mean, that shield's going to be broken more often than not anyway. So having more of that shield is going to be great, and having more counterattack is going to be great as well. So Valkyrie, easy option for a Reflex set. Now, Valkyrie, and a lot of these champions, they stand to benefit from a lot of different artifact sets. So I'm not saying it's a no-brainer that you have to put your Valkyrie in a Reflex. I don't use Valkyrie in a Reflex, but it's an option for you guys. Dark Elhain and Reflex, I love, guys. I love it because, again, only 2 active abilities, and I put her in attack percentage on the boots. So she's constantly triggering her Death Majesty anyway off of her passives. And when she's proccing that, I mean, it's a 3-turn cooldown already. She only has 1 active ability. You don't have to shut anything off on her. And she's going even more often with Death Majesty, which is a hard-hitting A2 ability. Really, really love it. Even the starting champions, guys, specifically Kale, who I won't show you guys, but I think you know who Kale is, right?
X gon' give it to you. Wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
And Aethel as well. Now, champions like Aethel, who already have an ability that grants an extra turn, so higher blessing, increase attack, increase defense, grant an extra turn is already reducing the cooldown anyway of her A2, and then with Reflex, you're going to be shooting off a bunch of Divine Blades from Aethel. I think that Reflex is a fun set to use with Kale and Aethel. Why Kale? Because of all those poisons. And we already said Aothar, Kale, most poison layers inside the game who don't have poisons on their A1. So A2, A3 poisons are going to be great options as well for a Reflex set. You can put Kale in Reflex. He has that turn meter boost on his A2, and you're going to be cycling a bunch more poisons than you otherwise would have on pretty much, again, every poison layer in the game. So, I mean, there's so many champions, guys. I could just be here all day. Hackhorn Smashlord, previously a champion that wouldn't synergize very well with Reflex. Reflex. However, are you sick of him killing himself with the blood offering ability? Shut it down, lock it out, turn that ability off, and then you have an amazing block debuff for 2 turns, a cleanse, and a heal, right? And that could be Reflex down from 4 turns to 3 to 2 to 1. So you get more cleanses, more block debuffs, and more heals out of your Hacker and Smash Lord. You don't even have to worry about that A3. It's kind of annoying, doesn't even deal that much damage. So it's another great option for you guys. I'm going to give another obvious one here before we end the video. In Skull Crusher. Again, Skull Crusher, man, you mean more ally protection, more counterattack, and more unkillable on this dude, right? He only has one other active ability. It can help you guys out a lot in Clan or in Clan Boss, excuse me, but just by putting your Skull Crusher in Reflex if you don't already have him in Lifesteal gear, because again, more ally protect and get that counterattack up on your team all the time potentially, right? It's a 3-turn cooldown. Counterattack only lasts for 2 turns. So when you have counterattack all the time, that's a ton more damage on Clan Boss. Guys, if I haven't sold you on Reflex now, I'm never going to. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to see any other artifact sets in the champions that I love them in, highlighted here on the channel. Thank you again for 100,000 subscribers, guys. I really appreciate you. Big shout out to GFUEL, where you can get 10% off. Use my code ASH in the description below. Thank you for showing a little bit of love to my channel sponsors, guys. It helps me out as well, obviously. So guys, thank you for watching all the way till the end. And as always, take care, guys.